Hey everyone, today I wanted to cover the ICT Seek and Destroy profile and showcase an indicator that I made for this and how it can potentially help you to avoid choppy sessions. So basically this came to my attention through people like T-Trades and Fair Value God on Twitter, people who were constantly making the observation that choppy days were often preceded by instances where the London session took both the low and the high of the Asian session. And obviously, since I like to code this stuff, I wanted to see if there was any validity to this statement and how we could actually verify what constitutes a successful seek and destroy day, and if we can accurately anticipate when these days might occur. I'll show a few examples before we go into the details, but I'll just scroll back here so you can see each of these sessions and where it prints these potential warning signals. So London takes both sides of Asia, we get that flag, potential seek and destroy day, and then it's validated by the success criteria that I'll show in a minute. We scroll back even further, we don't have many. Then we have a couple right here that actually seem to work pretty well. So this was actually the July 4th holiday on Tuesday. And interestingly enough, London still took both sides of the Asian range. And the day before that, where I believe markets were only open until 12 or 1, London still took both sides of Asia. And we had a pretty choppy day as a result, taking both sides of the London session in New York. Same thing here, London takes both sides, we get that potential flag, and we have a pretty choppy day to follow that. And once more on the day before as well. Now, when you use this indicator, if you do get this potential S&D flag, basically what will happen is that this table will show potential S&D day to give you a visual warning. Even if you don't want all these statistics and whatever, you can just turn off the table and it'll still show this flag when the criteria is met where London takes both sides of Asia. But getting into the success criteria, you can actually toggle which ones you want enabled. So the first one is that New York stays within the London range. And that's basically this July 4th holiday where you have London take both sides of Asia, but New York stays within Asia. Obviously, this was a holiday, but nonetheless, it still remained within the bounds set by London. So this was deemed valid as a result. The second criteria is essentially an outside day where New York exceeds both the London high and low. And you can see we have that here. London takes both sides of Asia, New York takes both sides of London. And as a result, we get a valid seek and destroy day. Another one to consider is that New York closes within the London range. So we have an example here where New York does not take the low of London. It does take the high, but then it closes back within the original range set by London. And then lastly, you have this New York range is too small. So if none of the above are true, it will look to see if the New York range was smaller than the historical ranges, where this parameter is the number of standard deviations from historical ranges. So if we put this to something like 1 and then deselect all of these, we can see that we have the warning sign here, London takes both sides of Asia, but then we just have a really slow, choppy, and overall small range day, which is why it gets marked as a valid seek and destroy day. But then on the other hand, you have that same warning criteria on the following day, then you have a nice expansion, which is obviously a much larger range than the previous day. And so this was invalidated because the range was too large. So I just tried to give a bunch of criteria for, what one could possibly look for to validate the criteria that, what constitutes a seek and destroy day, other than, something like, takes buy side and sell side liquidity X number of times or something like that. So for example, if you're looking only for the New York range to be less than 1 standard deviations of, its historical ranges, then that seems to yield a 34% success rate, meaning that, out of 62 warnings that were given, 21 fell within that, sub 1 standard deviation range. If we just look at closes within the London range, that becomes only 27% with 17 valid sessions out of 62 warnings. If we set New York exceeds London high and low, that actually accounts for a pretty high number for 52% of the total warnings given, which is kind of to be expected. I mean, obviously there's some volatility at, the 9:30 open, but there's also some at, 8:30 news events and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it's very uncommon for that to happen on a normal day, not even just seek and destroy. And then New York stays within the London range. That's actually a pretty rare occurrence. It's, probably just holidays and stuff like that, but figured I'd throw it in there anyway, even though it only counts for 5% of the total warnings that succeeded. And when you combine all these factors, you obviously get a much higher success rate. So with the current settings, it's 73% for ES. If we go to something like NASDAQ, pretty similar, 76% success rate. But I figured this would just be a really easy and nice to have, data collection tool for actually assessing what sessions are deemed, valid seek and destroy days, and how we can try to anticipate them in the future. So obviously, if you have this indicator, it will print this potential S&D day if the criteria is met. But if you want to see this flag at the top as well, make sure that in your settings that show warning is selected. Otherwise, if you turn it off, then it'll just have Seek and Destroy Profile at the top. But that's all for this one. I hope this was a helpful explanation. If you have any questions about this indicator, let me know. You can get this indicator by going to Indicators and typing in Seek and Destroy, and it should come up as the first one, ICT Seek and Destroy Profile by TFO. You can add that to your charts and adjust the settings to your liking, and should be good to go. But anyway, that's all I had for this one. Hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.